Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling the High Ledger on Immortal Realm. I actually work as an arbiter processing these filings, and man, the misconceptions I see are wild.
Oh, for sure, because whenever I hear High Ledger, I kind of just roll my eyes. It sounds like, I don't know, a bunch of guys sitting in a tavern doing paperwork for fun. Just classic MMO roleplay.
Like, honestly, isn't this just a guild rebrand with some roleplay flavors sprinkled on top? What does it actually do for my gameplay?
Right, and we need to kill that myth right now, literally in the first 60 seconds of this explainer. The High Ledger is not a roleplay group. It's not a cosmetic title, and it is definitely not a guild. We're talking about concrete, hard-coded systems that fundamentally change how you interact with the server.
Every single ledger function is a real game mechanic. It's the institutional backbone of the entire shard. If you're engaging with the economy, hunting bounties, or dealing with the justice system, you are interacting with actual mechanics managed by this institution.
No way. So you're saying it actively changes how we play and interact out in the world?
Exactly. It's the mechanical substrate for the shard's whole institutional layer, built right into the fabric of the game.
And to prove it, we're going to map out the 4 mechanical surfaces of the ledger: public records, player contracts, crown writs, and civic justice. These are 4 totally distinct ways the ledger drives the game forward for intermediate and advanced players.
All right, I'm hooked. Walk me through these mechanics.
Let's start with surface number 1, the public records archive.
So this archive isn't just a forum post somewhere or a Discord channel. It's a physical, usable wall located right at the Ledger Hall in Britain. And the sheer durability of these records is what makes them so powerful. When something goes on that records wall, it's time-stamped, it's witnessed by an actual ledger officer, and it is immutable once filed.
Wait, immutable? So if a deal goes sour, nobody can just sneak back and secretly edit the record to save face?
Nope. Once it's inked, it's permanent. And it's publicly accessible to anyone who walks in. It acts as this continuous, player-driven public history of the shard that literally anyone can read at any time.
Okay, but what's actually getting posted on it? A lot of heavy-hitting stuff. We're talking public attestations, registered guild charters.
Hold on, so if a guild registers here, it's permanent. Like, even if their Discord vanishes, the charter remains in the game?
Absolutely. It also holds public summaries of player contracts, crown right issuances, and even parole conditions. And crucially, this is where things like the College of Carugians, rank rosters, and Velvet Hand designations surface.
Okay, so other institutions are using the ledger to legitimize their own ranks.
Precisely. That's what I mean when I say it's the substrate. It mechanically ties all these disparate guilds and orders together into one cohesive public reality.
Which brings us right to our second surface, binding player contracts.
This is where the ledger becomes a massive economy primitive for the shard. It completely alters how we handle transactions that normally carry a huge risk of getting scammed. You know, things like gear leases or massive auction settlements.
So if I'm lending out a high-end customized weapon for a weekend raid, I don't just, hand it over and hope for the best?
Right. You draft the terms, you take it to the hall and request a filing. A real ledger officer, a clerk or higher, reviews it for clarity and witnesses it. Both parties sign and the public summary is logged. You only return when it's completed, or, well, if there's a breach. The key here is that human element. An actual player operating the civic infrastructure is physically witnessing your signature.
And the whole thing is enforced entirely by public reputation cost. If you break a contract, your civic standing takes a massive public hit.
So suddenly doing a huge crafter commission or a gold loan with a total stranger is actually viable. Because if they scam me, their civic standing is burned shard-wide. It's not just a private he said, she said anymore.
Hit the nail on the head. It makes high-trust transactions totally safe and enforceable, without having to rely on PvP force to go collect a debt.
All right, surface number 3 deals directly with combat and hunting, official crown writs.
I was actually going to ask about that. Does all this paperwork stuff interact with the people out there fighting and hunting bounties?
Oh, absolutely it does. The crucial point here is the difference between crown writs and player writs. Player writs are what you probably already know, funded by players using private authority. But crown writs carry official realm authority.
So who pays the bounty on a crown writ, and how do I even find them?
The realm funds them. You hunt them using the exact same /bounties interface you already know and use. But when you select a crown writ from that list, the reward pulls directly from the realm's funds, and completing them advances your standing on a completely unique rank and reputation track.
And that leads into surface number 4, civic justice and imprisonment.
All right, here is my ultimate skeptic question. Say I have a massive bounty. I get caught, and I get thrown in prison. What actually happens mechanically?
Is it just an annoying timeout where I sit staring at a wall in a cell? Oh, it is far more than a timeout. When you're in prison, getting out involves a massive, mechanical paperwork layer. Let's look at bail contracts. Another player can literally step up and obligate themselves for your behavior upon release. Wait, so if my buddy bails me out and I immediately go out and commit a crime, your buddy's civic standing gets heavily damaged. Their in-game reputation is literally on the line for your actions.
And then there are parole deeds. The ledger can grant you release under strict conditions, restricted travel, mandatory check-ins, things like that. What happens if I break parole? Just teleported back to prison? You go back to prison immediately, yes. But here's the catch. Violating parole actively damages the specific ledger officer who granted it to you. Whoa. So the actual officer doing the paperwork has literal mechanical stakes in whether I behave? That is incredible. They're putting their own progression on the line?
It really is. And finally, surrender filings. If you have active bounties, you don't have to wait to be hunted down. You can file a surrender through the ledger and negotiate terms of custody.
So this whole system basically transforms getting killed and looted into a structured, negotiated civic event?
That is exactly what it does. It adds a completely new layer of social and mechanical consequences well beyond just a single PvP encounter.
Okay, let's look at how all this operates behind the scenes. Section 5, running the civic engine and the rank ladder.
Now, I'm not going to recite this whole table for you. You can read the progression from clerk all the way up to high registrar. The key thing to notice here is the sheer weight of those service thresholds.
Yeah, 1,440 points for a proctor? That is no joke.
Right. Reaching these top tiers represents months of consistent, recognized public service. Plus, there are strict hold time gates once you reach arbiter and above. You absolutely cannot rush it. It's not some weekend skill grind where you just click a macro at the bank. It requires actually operating the system for the shard over a long period of time.
And that brings us to our final concept, self-selection. So here's my final lingering question. This all sounds amazing, but do I have to actually join the ledger to get these gameplay benefits? Like, do I need to become a clerk just to get a gold loan? That is a super common question. Look at the difference between members and users. Anyone can be a user right now. You can transact, file contracts, claim crown writs from the board, and post bail without ever joining the order. Oh, all right. So joining is only if I want to be the person processing the paperwork and running the mechanics? Exactly. Membership is strictly for the people who want to run the civic infrastructure. If you just want to use the system, you literally just walk in and use it as a player.
So, what should you take away from all this? Well, if you do crafter commissions, if you handle gear leases, or if you ever lend gold, you need to engage with this.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check this out. It sounds like a total game changer for the player economy.
For sure. Head over to the Ledger Hall in Britain and just watch a contract get filed. It's fully visible to non-members. Once you see these mechanics working in person, you'll immediately understand how this is the foundation of trust on the server. So ask yourself, in a game where anyone can steal from you, how much is an unbreakable promise actually worth?